everyone, no matter where you are, whether you're green and new in sales all the way to seasoned sales reps. The number one foundation of every successful sales rep is prospecting. And I'm sure everybody knows that, right? I know that. But yet I get kind of stuck into not doing the work that needs to be done to keep my pipeline full. So in my sales world, selling into software, I was always told your pipeline needs to be 3 times out of your quota. So whatever your annual quota is, it should be 3 times that just to keep sales going, right? And so what I have to do in my job, my role, I just started this company a month ago, and I am obviously paid to be going and finding new deals. And so even after 20 years, I get tired of doing it. However, to be in sales and to make money, and kind of that was the whole point of that TikTok that we showed you, is that the guy was in sales. He's driving a Ferrari. He makes, a business worth $40 million. And so part of that is, this is obviously the career we all chose, right? And so when you choose a career path like this, prospecting is pretty much the one that's going to make you the most successful. I work in a world where we have BDRs. You guys, I believe, also have canvassers that go out and help bring these things in. And my understanding, anyway, you guys probably get 1 to 2 leads a day, which is very nice, very generous to have something like that drop in your lap. Because when you look at what your pipeline looks like, what your book looks like, you're basically the manager of that book, right? So as I think I've learned in sales, is that you are the CEO of your sales pipeline, and you're managing your own business based off of that. And when you're not succeeding in selling, most likely you're going to get fired. I've had to live that for 20 years, making sure that I'm constantly prospecting and I'm closing. If not, then I was going to get fired and I had to move on to another job. But I think, just from me moving up through the ranks of the 20 years where I am today, obviously, I kept doing the work that needed to be done. So part of that prospecting in your pipeline that you have is, where are these prospects coming from? So if you're getting 1 to 2 leads, those would be your quick to close, the highest quality that you can have, which comes to top here. So I just started my new job. I was just transferred, let's say, 14 opportunities. Some of them could be as high as $1 million. And in those opportunities, that was my first job, is to go in there as quickly as I could and see where I can pick up and try to close, because those are like bluebirds, right? Drop to your lap. Everybody's already worked from the ground floor. Here they are, the highest qualified prospect. But are they really viable? Are they really sales deals? Or are they just fillers? This pipeline and another sales rep did to make sure management stayed off her ass. Well, pretty much all of them were just fillers. So that leads me to start back here, which is on the bottom, which is all prospecting. So part of that prospecting is cold calling. And everybody hates cold calling, right? But it's part of what we do. And it has to be done. So while reading this book, everything kind of came back to me. All the foundations of everything we do in prospecting. And I realized the very top, where it says the worst enemy of every prospect's procrastination, perfectionism, and paralysis. And all of those hit me because I do procrastinate all the time. And where I procrastinate is during my time with them. I never block out that time, because as I'm getting busy and I'm putting orders in, and I've got clients emailing me, the first thing I do is I go to my email and I start responding to all that. Then I start thinking, well, I need to organize my prospect list. And I need to know exactly what they have, what they don't have, who's the main contacts. I have to, in my mind, put it all together. And then paralysis. It's like, fuck, now I got to make these calls. Do I want to make these calls? And first rejection, second rejection. I'm like, do I want to keep doing this? And that's kind of where this starts to fall into the problems that you have when you're prospecting. So time blocking. I'm like, gosh, I do need to do that. Every morning they say you should not be going to your emails, should not be on your phone. You should be already having your target list what you're going to do that day. Who are you going to call and what houses are you going to go to? You guys going door to door? You should know in whatever block you make yourself or your manager say, you guys need to be out prospecting an hour, 2 hours, then you should know by just your own stats how long it takes you to go from house to house. So how many houses are you going to knock down in that day? And then from there, that's kind of where the 30-day rule comes in. So 30 days of prospecting, that would scale in the next 90 days. So every day that you're prospecting, if you're calling 50 people, 90 days from now, you're gonna turn a couple of those into a deal, and the rest of them are gonna be dead. So that's where the long placement comes from, because I see this all the time. I got this book that was transferred over to me. Out of all of them, let's just say 10, maybe one will close, but 9 of them are big. So I now have nothing because I haven't prospected, right? And so now they're saying from 90 days from now, you're going to close a deal. But how many more prospects have I put in there if I put the work by time block? So all these are very, very important for me, because what they're paying me to do my job is exactly this. And if I'm not doing it and I'm not turning over a profit for them, I'm not going to have a job in 6 months. And that's kind of where you fall into those sales slumps. So as I've gone through my career, I've got really comfortable. I am a hunter. I do like to do that, but I also get bored from it. And so that's where I fall into the sales slump, right? And so then I get busy again. I'm doing this, I'm setting up demonstrations, I'm calling and following up. I'm trying to close things, but then I forget kind of where I'm supposed to be with my prospecting. Because I think, well, I'll just wait. Next week I'll start prospecting, and then that week comes and I get busy. So you kind of go through this vicious cycle of not having discipline enough to start there in the ground floor. It's very important. Fear is also, for some of you new sales reps, if you've not been selling for a very long time, you'll see a lot of rejection starts to kind of beat down and go up. I learned early on in my career that don't take things personal. I know, we know that, the roofing industry is a tough, competitive market. You guys you've got so many people probably following you as you're out canvassing and knocking door to door, right? So you're trying to show yourself that you're different from what your competitor is. And you might get yelled at. Maybe you guys did a job 5 years ago and people were pissed off. I've just learned that fear, and especially when I'm calling people, is that when they're mad about the company or what something's done, they're not mad at me. And I talked to Julius about this a few times, which is really just emotional intelligence, right? Not to let all these things kind of take over your thought process and why you were out there doing the job that you're doing and the pride you take in the company. You still have all that pride, but a lot of that sets in and starts kind of keeping you from doing what you need to do. And then at the end of the day, every single sales executive, manager, and sales person is a numbers game. You should always know what your stats are. They say with an athlete, if you walk up to them and you ask them what the stats are, they know. They know everything they need to do. They're very disciplined in that work. And that's how we should be thinking. We should be almost obsessed with it. We should be knowing what our peers are doing, where they are, who I want to be. I mean, that's kind of how I run my business, is that I want to see who's at the top, and then I want to try to beat that person. So it gives me a challenge. So I'm constantly trying to make sure I'm focusing where I need to focus in order to close. So going back to just that foundation again, is what I've learned is there needs to be at least 7 touch points when you're food calling. Absolutely don't know them from anywhere. There should be at least 7 ways you are contacting these net new prospects. And so for me, starting this new position, I've been in the insurance industry for over 10 years. Therefore, I have created a lot of contacts, people I've sold to. First thing I did is I went right to those contacts. Hey, sold to you before. I might not even be managing your business. Another account rep is, but I will get credit for that lead. So therefore, I start the connections through a warm introduction. Can you introduce me to? Can you forward this on? I got a sales rep that's working in your territory. I'd like to have you at least help us kind of get them in the door. The in-person door-to-door, the face-to-face. I mean, when I go out and do demonstrations for my clients, I usually close all deals. Whereas it's different when we're doing it on phone, or we're doing it over Zoom. There's not that relatable relationship where I'm connecting with you, I'm relatable with you. But just even stopping by quickly, if people don't really have much time to talk to you, if you can spend 5 minutes with them and really just get their phone number and their email address, That will help you then move on to your next part of your touch points, which would be voicemails, trying to set your next meeting. I mean, when I was looking through your process here, this is so close to what we do too. This is your process, right? But it's very close to what we also do, even in software. I don't think there's any kind of sales environment where we all don't kind of do the same things. It's all meaningful, and it all kind of starts with building a relationship. And building relationships are probably the best way I've ever been successful in my own sales. Closing is that I built relationships. We call them 3x3. You keep connecting with other people within companies. You need champions, you need decision makers, and therefore you need to keep calling and following up. And then of course we can follow up with emails. Just sending out quick, hey, can I get you on the phone? Or can we set up a meeting? Social media. I thought I was kind of being intrusive by looking at my client on different platforms in social media. But it's actually very encouraged to do so because again, it's going back to building relationships. And the last part of that is educating them. Now, this isn't something I've done enough, but what I'm learning is it goes a long way to gaining credibility, right? So what do you know? You're the expert in this industry. You should be trying to kind of get them along through the different phases of your sales cycle. And these are just other ways you can do it. Instead of bothering them or instead of saying, hey, just circling back, hey, just following up, you can kind of send us these, did you know? Weather instruction, what can be happening to your house? What about new material, new things that come into your space that you could be sharing with customers? So again, those 7 touch points right there, usually by the 3rd or 4th, they will respond to you. And the last thing before I turn this over to John is we've seen some stats really on closing rates and why clients decided to buy from certain customers. And in that was really just understanding their customer, right? Making sure you're aligning your solutions to what they need. Don't be trying to sell them everything just because you can. And don't ever come across, I know in just being a sales rep, we have kind of a bad reputation as far as like, oh, she's going to sell me something. In their mind, it's always about me, salesperson, instead of you. So really just understanding what they need, right? And just kind of what I do, the way I've been successful is add-ons. Add-ons slowly, not add-ons all at the same time. But as I build up the relationship and I build this kind of ability, I'm able to add more product to any of my clients and keep them long-term. And then again, expert insights, like I said, on the education. Really just being that knowledgeable person to come to that you trust. You know what you're talking about. You got to read up. You got to take your classes and do things here. Just continue to educate yourself. And really then just going through the market of, there's so many companies out there. Why should I go with you? Having a good understanding of what you guys do and why you do it better. And then really helping them through their decision-making process. Creativity when it comes to negotiation. Obviously, you don't want to give them away. Last job I looked at, I didn't give 1 discount to a client. This job, it sounds like we do discounts all the time, but when you add a lot of that value, sometimes those conversations don't even come up. However, being very creative in the way that you sell is going to help you close a lot more doors. And then communication. I know, guys, I have boys, 6 boys now that'll be in our family, and they're horrible communicators. And if you are that way at home, you're probably that way in business. So communication, over-communicating, women do it all the time. We like to communicate a lot. We want you to know everything that's going on. That's also how you should treat all your clients, right? Next steps, what's going on? If you haven't followed up, are you kind of going through your list, making sure that you have circled back with them? And then just resolving any concerns. And again, that emotional intelligence, taking yourself, your own feelings out of someone being really pissed off at you, trying to fire back at them, but really just acting like you care. You're going to be there to resolve it. And a lot of times clients will want to buy it again if you do. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to John. And he's just going to talk a bit about how he's been successful over the last 40 years.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Let me just start Good job, Juliana, by the way. So, there's a good half and there's a bad worse half. I'm the worst half of this combination with Juliana. So she's the better half. I'm the worst half. It's kind of been my life. Uh, but when Julius didn't ask me to come and talk because he's a smart guy, he didn't ask me to come and talk. He asked his mom, say, "Hey, can you get John to come talk?" And so right away, Julius is using some good salesmanship techniques to try to get the end result he's looking for. And so the reason I did want to talk is I'm gonna share with you a little bit about my career and my years in sales. But one of the reasons I didn't want to talk is because I wasn't prepared. So I got the phone call. Actually, I got the conversation yesterday about 2 o'clock. Hey, can you come in and talk? And I'm like, oh hell no, I can't come in and talk. I'm not prepared for that. Um, but I'm here. So I'm glad to see all you guys this morning, and I hope that I can share a few things. The reason I'm here is because I think Julius knows that I've been in the sales area for over 40 years. So I started out my career just a little bit. I can you tell the attire and where I'm from? I'm kind of a Kansas City guy. I grew up in the Midwest, grew up in Missouri. I grew up in Kansas City. I now live in St. Louis. But I've had two jobs in my life, and they were all sales. So my first job out of college was I started selling chemicals, and I did that from the very beginning. And I was a chemistry major, but there was so much I didn't know about what I was doing. But over the years, you learn. So that job I did for 17 years, and then that kind of morphed into I went to work for a paint company called U.S. Paint Corporation, and ended up buying the company and running that. But in that time, all I've done is sales, and so people would come up to me and so the last 25 years I was the CEO of the company. So we had about US Bank had about 120 employees. We were about 50, $60 million in sales, and we sold to the automotive and power sports motor. And we were dealing with all the big boys. So we were selling to Toyota, mostly Japanese companies, Toyota, Subaru, Nissan, Honda in the automotive area. We sold paint for both the exterior parts. We didn't paint the cars, but we painted all the parts on the cars on an OEM level. And then we had this power sports market, which was the fun stuff. So jet skis, snowmobiles, motorcycles, four wheelers. Four wheelers are probably the biggest ones now, but we were selling everybody. We were selling Yamaha, Polaris, Arctic Cat. Uh, who else is out there? I mean, you name it, John Deere. We were selling all those guys. Uh, so anyway, it was a great business. And the one thing I learned early on in sales was that, and this is where you guys are, okay? Nothing happens in sales till somebody sells something. Actually, nothing happens in a business till somebody sells something, okay? And sales is the engine that drives every business. And if you guys ever want, and Juliana talked about this a little bit, be your own boss and really feel like you're a contributor to a company and you're making a difference, sales is where it's at. So some of you guys are prepared for this, and I'm not here to give you the one, two, threes and the ABCs on how to sell because that just comes from experience and time. But I will tell you that it is, like I said, the engine that drives companies. And if you really want to contribute, that's where you can contribute. And this is the role a lot of you have today is to sell. And there's nothing more you can do to contribute to the growth, health, and success of a company than to sell. So once upon a time, I don't know how many, once upon a time, there are a lot of little boys in this room who were little boys at one time. And what was the first thing you guys wanted to be when you grew up? Astronaut. Well, astronaut? Solid. That's solid. What else? I want to be a football player. So I still remember that was the first thing I wanted to do. I wanted to be a football player. And after that, then I wanted to be a basketball player. Those were like my big dreams. Well, who else? Anybody else got any guess? Video game designer. Designer? Nice. You gotta be smart for that stuff.
I want to be John Wayne.
You want to be John Wayne? Oh my God. How old are you?
25.
25. Boy, you really watched some old movies because John Wayne was like my hero when I was a kid. For sure. Who the hell do you think grows up and says, I want to be a fucking salesman? Who? No, nobody. You did not.
On a bar and salsa.
Nobody grows up and says they want to be a salesman. Okay, it just doesn't happen. And that video did not really do justice to, I think, the message we were trying to give you, which was, it's one of these TikToker guys, one of these influencers catches this guy and like, hey, what are you doing? You drive this Maserati or whatever he was driving. And so he starts quizzing him. And the guy was nice. But did you notice? I mean, I don't know if he did or not. He's like, what do you do? He goes, I'm in sales. Okay, I'm in sales. And it's true. I mean, it's like an overlooked thing. When you grow up, there's doctors, there's lawyers, there's engineers, there's all these guys that you think, okay, yeah, that's how I can make money. That's what I should be doing. But actually, all the big money and all the big things that happen in the world are guys that are simple peddlers. For years and years, people would ask me, they'd come up and they'd always say, hey, what do you do for a living? I meet guys, I meet guys. And even when I was the CEO of a company, I never said, I'm the CEO of a company. You know what I said? I'm a peddler. I'm a sales guy. Because I was. Sales, if you want to be successful in sales, the one thing you have to do, it's not I want to be a sales guy or I am a sales guy. It has to be your identity. Okay. It has to be who you are and it's going to be part of your personality and what you do. So if it's in your personality, you will exhibit certain behaviors and characteristics that will help you succeed in all parts of your life. Because to be good at sales, you have to be good. You have to have a lot of other personal skills to be successful. A long time ago, like maybe 40, 45 years ago, the insurance industry did this big survey and they did this big study. And they did it in conjunction with Harvard University. And it became a Harvard University kind of like study that they wrote this big paper on. And the insurance industry was having a problem with big turnover. There was a lot of turnover in the sales. I think at one time the turnover was over 60% of the people. They didn't make it 1 year. 60% of the people didn't make it 1 year. 80% of the people didn't make it in 3 years. So that turnover led to a lot of high costs of doing business, training, recruiting, expenses, all these things that there was no payback on for the insurance company. So they started this study to really understand why they had so much turnover and how can you find the right people. And they really came up with two things. The eventual outcome of that study was two things. What it takes to be a good sales guy. And there's two things. Anybody want to guess what those might be? Product knowledge. Okay.
Charisma.
Charisma. Okay. Yes.
Probably says identity, like you're saying, something along identity.
Identity.
Personability.
Personability. Okay. Yeah. Those are all solid answers. How they summarized it, and probably everything you guys say could fall into one of these two categories. So the first thing was ego drive. Okay. Ego drive is a broad category of motivation. What gets your ass out of bed in the morning? What motivates you to succeed? What are the drivers inside you? And the people who were successful had that drive. They wanted to win. They were winners. They wanted to succeed. They wanted to achieve. They wanted to grow. They had that desire from within to do great things. And so they were self-driven. They were self-driven to succeed. And that was a big characteristic. The other one, okay, was they put this category they entitled empathy. Empathy. Anybody give me a definition of empathy?
To be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
That's almost verbatim what it is. Empathy is, yes, the ability to walk in somebody else's shoes, the ability to relate to people and they can relate to you. And so those two things, and he mentioned product knowledge. Product knowledge is kind of like the third leg of the stool. If you have that ego drive, you're going to make yourself get the product knowledge you need to succeed. So those are really the facets, and this was a study that's done 40 years ago. They redid the study, I don't know, 20 years ago, and they still found the same results. I just recently read that the new mode of selling in the 21st century is relationship selling. I mean, that's really what they're saying now. That everybody, Juliana talked about that, the whole relationship side of things. So, in a nutshell, those are the attributes you got to kind of work on. Those are the things you got to kind of go for. And some people have one of those categories. Some people are really good. They're really personable, but they don't really have that drive. And the other people, some people have the drive, but they don't have good people skills. And so you could be one or the other. You're not going to be as successful. The people who are the most successful are the people who have that ability to be personable, to be able to relate to people. They can relate to you. And have that drive to win and succeed and to sell. Having those things two together are really what kind of drives everything. So just a couple of things. I didn't have a PowerPoint, but just a couple of points I wanted to make. Success. Okay, just a little quick formula. About 5 things that I've read. 6 things that I think are really important for successful people. Hard work, patience. Okay, you got to be patient. Things don't happen overnight. There's a process. Sacrifice. Okay, you have to sacrifice things to get what you want. I mean, nobody's bringing anybody's stuff on a silver platter, so you got to work for it. Consistency, being consistent, doing the right thing every time. So consistency leads average people and average events into better opportunities, better chances, and excellence. Discipline, you got to have discipline and self-confidence. And I want to say one thing about the discipline side that I think every day, so it's great to get motivated, it's great to get pumped up, it's great to have inspirational talks. But every day we're faced with hundreds of decisions we got to make. Okay, hundreds of decisions, hundreds of opportunities, hundreds of things we got to process. And it's my opinion that everything comes down to two questions you got to answer for yourself every day as you're out there in sales. Okay. The first question is every day you're going to be presented with things you know you need to do. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to get this done. You need to get that done. And there's always going to be things that are going to distract you. So you got things you know you ought to do, but you don't want to do them. And on the other side of that coin, there's a lot of stuff you're going to get presented with. The things you know you shouldn't do, but you want to do. How are you going to answer those questions every day? So the people that answer those questions the right way every day more often are the people that will put themselves on a path to success. And so you continue to do the right things and the right things will happen and you'll be running down that road of success with a higher probability than if you're not doing those, answering those two questions the right way. So I'm going to share. So that's the everyday discipline. That's why I want to bring that up. Those are the things you guys. That's got to come from within every day. Those are the things you guys got to do. So I'm just going to share with you some odd and end. So everybody calls me Big B, and don't go there when they call me Big B. A lot of other reasons. But if you want to be a good salesman, start by being a good person. So that's right there at the top of the list. I always am a big believer. I've always been a big believer in quality. Do it right the first time. I mean, in your business, you guys got to know firsthand that if it's not done right the first time, you're going to be back there again. That's all wasted effort, wasted time, wasted money, and you got to do it right the first time. Bring the quality, and the expectation of quality, and people. Quality always sells. Quality always sells. One of my big things is whatever you do in life, don't half-ass it. Do it. You're all in. Okay? Why are you doing it if you're just going to half-ass it? So the one thing about if you're always all in on it, you never wonder, could I have done better? Could I have done something different to make it succeed? If you're always in, you're gonna sleep better at night. Hey, I did the best I could. But if you miss a sale or you miss an opportunity or a deal because there were some things you could have done differently or you weren't quite prepared or whatever it is, those are the things that keep you up at night. So don't half-ass anything you do. Bring your best to it. Do your job. So one of the great football coaches of all time, Bill Belichick, he had a simple message for everybody on his team. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Don't worry about this guy, that guy, what other guy. Do your job to the best of your ability. And if you do that, that's 90% of the battle right there. Let everybody else figure out their shit, but just do your job. I've always said this. People argue with me on this, but I've always said, if you do the right thing will happen. And we all know what that means. There's decisions we can make, but if you always do the right thing, maybe it'll burn you here or there. Maybe it won't give you the results you're looking for. But I'm a firm believer, do the right thing and the right thing will happen. you always want to work on continuous improvement, continually improving. I remember years ago they were interviewing Walter Payton, and he had like an MVP record year. He rushed for the most yards ever, receiving yards, rushing yards. And they were interviewing him one time, and they're like, "Oh my God, how are you going to beat this year? They're coming into a new year. How are you going to beat this year?" And but he's like, if I do one thing better than I did last year, if I make a block that I missed last year, if I fall on a fumble somebody else makes, if I do whatever it is, I'll have succeeded in having a good year. And I think if you guys take that approach too, how can I improve? How can I get better? How can I be a better version of myself? That just comes from experience and knowledge and the desire to be better. And so I always encourage you. The best teacher out there in the world are your experiences. And the more experiences you have, the more encounters you have, the more you'll be able to build on that and continue to grow. Julian also talked about this a little bit. So the one thing I loved about sales when I was in sales, and I learned this early on, I I wanted to work for myself. That was always my goal. I wanted to work for myself. But I found in sales you can't work for yourself. You can almost you be your own boss. You manage your own territory. You manage your own responsibility. But I tell my guys that I'd get on them and give them trouble about something, and I'm like, if you don't want a boss, sell a lot of shit. So the guys leave you alone. You sell a lot of stuff, people leave you alone. And I always liked that. So I always performed, I always sold because I didn't want a boss looking over me. I wanted to come back and say, look what I did. But I didn't want somebody micromanaging me. And if you want that kind of world, sell a lot of stuff. Can't sell anything sitting in the office. Let me just tell you one thing about this interpersonal thing. People don't want to be sold. People want to buy. So the whole buying philosophy is, don't feel like you got to sell them something. You got to create a uh, an approach that makes them want to buy what you have. So you guys know going to stores and they're harassing or whatever is happening. Nobody wants to have a pushy salesperson. Okay, they don't want them. They want people want to buy. People want to do business, but they want to make sure it's their idea. So if you take that approach and try and present whatever you're doing in a way that makes them want to buy, you're gonna get so much further ahead in doing that. I always say God gave you, and it's not my saying, but God gave you 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. Sales guys sometimes like to overtalk, and the best thing you can do is listen. So if you're a great listener, you're going to go a lot further than being a great talker. And I've seen it happen so many times. So we used to dress up in ties and everything, and we had this signal, and I had this signal when we were in an account when the sales guy was talking too much. So I was I was a sales manager, I did these different jobs. So I go out with the sales guys and train them. And like I said, we used to wear ties. So my signal was, if you're talking too much, I'm going to pull my tie. So I'm going to be sitting over here. I can't tell you how many times I almost hung myself because I was pulling my tie so freaking hard because these guys just were talking too much. So little advice there, not as much talk. Yeah, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay. I can do this in 5 minutes. So I heard a quote recently and it said, in life, you're either filling the tank or you're draining the tank. You're either filling the tank or you're draining the tank. Bring energy every day. Fill the tank. Be the guy that's filling it up. Be the guy that's contributing. Don't be the guy that's sucking shit out of the company. So be that guy that's contributing. And because this is your lucky day, everyone here today is going to get a gift.
Take home prize.
Yeah, it's not a prize. It's a gift. It's a gift. So, and I know you're not going to think you're not really getting a great gift, but you are. Thanks, I'm going to tell you. So, as you go out in the world, you guys are like a pencil. And this pencil is four things. And if you learn these four things, not only about selling, but about life, you will be successful. And everything you need to know about success is in this pencil. So, first thing you notice about pencils, the pencil's not going to work unless it's sharpened. So, you got to sharpen yourself. So, in order for you to work and in order for this to work, it's got to be sharpened. So, just like that, you guys got to sharpen yourselves, put yourselves in a position to work. Now, imagine if this pencil had feelings and like you sharpen it, that would freaking hurt. So sometimes sharpening our skills hurts. It's not easy to do that. So, but you sharpen your skills and your work. Second thing is that along the life, you will lead, you're going to make mistakes. And things are going to screw up. But you got an eraser to take care of that. You got an eraser to take care of that. So learn from what happens in the world. Learn that mistakes aren't bad. They're learning experiences and they're chances and opportunities to move on. Do something new. Third thing is, what this pencil for is to draw, to leave your mark. Leave your mark on the world. So you're going to have lots of encounters. Don't be a, I'm not the word, I just lost the word, damn it, sorry. Don't be a spectator. Don't be a spectator. Be a participant. Leave your mark in everywhere you go and everything you do. Leave your mark and keep leaving your mark. Don't stop. Don't ever stop writing. Don't ever stop drawing. Keep leaving your mark. And the last thing is everything you need is not anywhere else. It's right here in this pencil. So it's inside you. So if you want to be great, it's inside you to happen. So don't look outside to make it happen because you're the ones who can make it happen. So you got it already. Don't say, well, if I had this, if I had that, or whatever. You got it already. So go for it. Yeah.
I go sell something.
You guys have any
What
questions
my
for
boss
him?
says.
You guys have some time? You guys have any questions for him?
Sure.
Daniel over there has a hand up.
Yes, sir.
With question, both y'all, you have any tips on, you said you had a lot of high dollar contracts. What would you give us as far as pitch to close those types of contracts?
So the one thing I would say is always make sure you're talking to the right person. Always make sure you're talking to the key decision maker. And I know my personal experience, and I don't know how much this relates to what you guys do every day. But when I was working at trying to get big opportunities, I knew the guy scrubbing the floors, and I knew the guy in the ivory tower, and everybody in between. And so my advice is the more in depth you can sell, and the more people you can get buying into what you're doing and what you're working on, the greater possibility of success you will have.
I would say use your resources. So, like they've always said, there's no I in team. When you close deals, you never want to be, or you don't close a deal, you never want to be that guy who was standing alone without getting the help you needed. So that's why you bring in the experts, right? You have a closer. He used to be called closer. They bring him in. There was a reason. I also have that on my own team. My manager has been doing it for 25 years, and he has closed everything he touches. So I always use all my resources. I use all the tools that are given to me in technology, and again, the connections with clients, and then also having champions. If you don't know who you're championing, and I know you guys do some commercial business, right? So you're going out meeting with buyers, and they have committees that have to make a decision. And if there's, 5+ people in that committee, how many of those 5 do you know? How many do you have a relationship with? If it's only one, there's not a great chance of that closing. But if there's 3, that's a real success. So when we talk about connecting with people, you've got 5 people in the room, you should at least get to know 3 of them. Because 2 of them might not want to give you the time of day. But if the others are willing to give you a chance, that's going to lead to more success.
And I used to try, when I was working on big deals, I'm trying to get big deals, and sometimes the bigger the deal, the longer it takes to close some of these things. But I would try and find things that I could contribute to add value without coming across as a bunch of bullshit. So I would find reasons to reach out. I would find reasons to share a piece of information, or even if it was something that unrelated to what the project was, or somebody had a particular sports team they liked, or a particular hobby they followed, or whatever. I'd kind of shoot them something real quick, and hey, we're on the same page. I know you're into this or whatever. The other thing is, I see all these TikToks now, which are very good, and they're talking about all the things not to do. And the one thing that you don't want to do, which is the biggest no-no, and it always was, is call somebody and say, "Hey, I'm just following up."
He calls me out on.
Yeah, when I hear that, I'm like, "Oh." So there's other ways to say, hey, I wanted to, get with you and discuss this, without people, if they're not at the point where they're ready to make a decision and you're just following up, then it's kind of a little bit of annoying. But, find ways to get in there and talk to them without coming across as annoying.
So if you want to follow up on saying as your follow.
Exactly.
And that's hard, because that's the easiest thing to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, when you're not saying that, you have to practice what you are going to say, right? And so you're always trying to pivot. How am I going to lead this conversation? Because in sales, for us, and the way I sell, I have to own it. I always have to be the one in charge. As soon as my client takes over, they're telling me how things are going, I'm losing already. I'm losing to someone else, or I'm losing because I wasn't credible enough. I didn't add the value.
So let me just say one other thing. Be passionate about what you do, okay? And if you're passionate about what you do, people will respect that and admire that. I told you the first thing I did was I was in the chemical industry, and paint companies buy a lot of chemicals. So I sold to a lot of paint companies, and I love them because they bought so many chemicals. But I remember telling myself, oh my God, I would never work at a fucking paint company. They're dirty, stinky, lousy places. I'm never going to work there. And then I ended up owning a company. So you got to look at where your opportunities come from and take advantage when they come up. But here's me. I'd say I'd never work at a paint company. And then I gave it my all for 25 years, like nobody's business. So Did I ever think I was going to be passionate about paint? No, never once did I think I would be passionate about paint. But I became passionate because I was all in. I was all in. And so I would say, what's going to get you all in? What's going to get you to get all in? And if if it ain't the roofing business, then you got to find something that's going to get you all in, because that's when you're going to succeed. That's when you're going to really knock it out of the park. So,
Do you guys have any other questions?
all right, go sell something. That's what I'd always say to my teams. I'd like, all right, go sell something.
You guys don't have any more questions? These people have all sold over millions of dollars. This is the opportunity.
Well, you can always, you have connections through.
Is there anything specific, like a specific favorite thing you like to say to start the conversation up? Anything specific you like to say, or you always switch it up?
So the one thing I remember I always said to customers, especially on a cold call, is I just tried to always be low key, and I just say, hey, I'm here on a fact finding mission. I'm just trying to find out, learn about this, learn about that, and I always used to say, dumb is smart. So dumb is smart. Ask the questions, ask the open-ended questions that will get people talking. And there's nothing people like talking about more than themselves. So if you can find ways to get people to talk and come across and open up, ask a lot of questions because and you might already know the answers, but let them educate you.
Yeah, I would just say in sales, it's not about us as salespeople. We want to tell everyone about our shit, who we are, what we sell, why it's so great, da 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 da. And it's just like product throw up, right? But what we should be doing is the opposite. What about them? What do you need? When's the last time you went and looked for something like this? You know, how satisfied are you with this? And again, just going back to focus on them. Don't focus on you. Don't focus on your product. You're going to fill that gap when it's needed, but you got to listen first. You got to understand. You got to vet it out. You got to do your discovery, research on them. I mean, a great way, a great segment into someone you don't know is maybe just have a good understanding of, again, who you're calling, the company you're calling. I have to research companies every single time I pick up the phone. And if someone put me on the spot, say, what do you know about my company? I better be able to tell them what I know about the company. Because then they're like, why are you calling me? You're just like a BDR. You're just trying to, you're dialing for dollars. Don't be that person.
First and foremost, I just want to say thank you guys for sharing your time today and sharing a whole bunch of advice and the profession that you guys are in. It was awesome. I took away a lot of good stuff. I wanted to see what's a book recommendation that you guys have that kind of just sparked a whole bunch, like sparked the light bulb, gave you a whole bunch of gems, something that sticks out.
So the one book, which is the Bible for selling,
I like that one.
the Bible of selling, is an old book.
Oh, the Bible of selling.
The old Bible of selling. That's not what it's called. But I think it was first written in like the 1940s or 50s, and it's still in publication today. But it's Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
That's a good one.
That's always been, I mean, I gave that book to every new sales guy that came on board, and it's really a manuscript for how we should be as people. I mean, there's so many little tidbits in there of how to treat people and little, everything's so little and simple. It's just a discipline of implementing them and making it a habit and a practice. And like I said, there's one thing, and I learned this in the book, the sweetest sound to a person is their name. So if you get into, it's hard to remember names, but if you focus on remembering names and who you're talking to, a little simple thing like that, and use that every time you address them. Hey, Bill. Hey, Mary. Hey, whatever. Keep using their name. That's just one thing, but that's just like the fundamental. of what you do. And as I said earlier, I adopted that and it became my personality and my identity as a sales guy. So what you see is what you get. But I try to live a certain life like a sales guy. Like
And I would say the one that I just read, which I used a lot of the PowerPoint for, was the inadequate prospecting, which is a bestseller right now.
That's a good one.
So if you haven't read that, you should, because that is the foundation of all selling. And if you don't want to do all of these things that it tells you should be doing, you should be in sales. I mean, because like I said, even for me and to have the discipline, it's like I fucking hate prospecting, but I know that it's going to make me money, right? So I do it, but it's hard sometimes to do it just because it gets boring, it's tedious, it's this. I have to keep coming up with creative email messages, but you got to do it.
Do y'all have like a set word track that y'all use for rejection, or do you switch it up every time on a case by case basis?
It's case by case. But, it's great if you have sales managers who start really charting out your objections. If they say this, then maybe these are the key values that we sell on saying what, we should be then pivoting to, right? There's always a pivot. And I know just at my last job, I was on a call doing a set. Well, I was about to close this client. I thought I had them. I thought the girl was my champion. I thought they were all in. CEO went to a conference and heard bad things about us from another client. I'm like, oh, they suck. Like, they fucked up a lot of things, and I wouldn't go with that. So then my client started ghosting me, which I hate, but I'm used to. And I'm like, gosh, why won't this girl get back to me? And so I'm trying to be creative and asking her, hey, can you just respond? Like, I'm just trying to have an understanding of where we are in the process. Like, did you go a different direction? Can you just kind of, kind of enlighten me why you are not responding anymore? Like, we were right there at the sixth part of closing my deal. So she's like, yeah, I will. So we get on a Zoom call. She says, yeah, I have to tell you, my CEO went to this conference and met with a few of your clients, and they were unhappy. And this client, she gave me the name. She said, you guys screwed up this. Well, I didn't know the client. It wasn't my customer. And I didn't even know what service they had. So I didn't pivot because I'm like, wow, I keep hearing this. And although, you might have 99 clients satisfied, the one that's unhappy, I didn't pivot and say, well, we have 99 other clients that are just thrilled with all the work we do. It's just this one that's upset. And my manager went back because they watch on Gong, so he gets to watch every single meeting I ever have. And he's like, why didn't you pivot? Why did you say this? Why did you say that? I'm like, I don't know. Like honestly, I kind of agreed with him. We do fuck a lot of things up, but I should. And so I didn't get the deal, but I understood the client. But having those objections, had I had something that would have been what I should have said, I probably would have been able to go that direction, but I don't think I would have changed her mind.
Okay.
So it is good to have that though. And I do feel like you need battle cards against all your competitors. You need to know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. You need to know what your strengths are and your weaknesses, because that's where you need to make improvements and fill gaps. But just having that kind of like as to go makes you a better sales rep because you're more prepared for pivoting because you're always going to be pivoting in sales.
And then how do you guys handle success?
Yeah.
Okay, well, first off, I just want to say thank you to my mom, John, there. I know John said he wasn't prepared, but you can see this guy is always locked and loaded, ready to go. So, thank you both for that. Just by show of hands, I can see everybody here. I was watching along here. Who made the 100K club this month? By show of hands. Oh, guys, okay. So both of you did make the 100K club, or again, the question, who just by show of hands found value in what they had to share today? Everybody, except for one guy in the middle there. Well, I really hope to see that same attention hands as the next meeting by taking these things to implement. If you really want to see the truth and how, somebody's people selling their skills and sales, I mean, just look at how John sold a pencil to you guys. You know, that's where you are related with people. That's where you're showing the value of something. And, you know, when you have had so many years of being able to practice, learn, and refine, that's when you become that good. So I loved it. I hope you guys did too. And there's any other questions, you gotta do have all there. In respect to your time. Thank you guys. Give a big round of applause for you.
Yeah, thank you both.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's take like 5 or 10 minutes, something like whatever you need to do, and then we'll regroup. We'll make it quick so that we can be out in the field, but we'll go back over January and make a plan for this month.
Hey, make sure you guys eat the smooth, please.
That's it. That part.
All right, good luck. Go sell something. There you go. Mike, go sell something. Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Run.
A lot of good stuff.
It's gonna win that. Yeah, you're right. Okay. All right. Let's go. Yes, sir. Good luck. Correct. I sure did. That's the one that I'm telling you that I'm going to. Finish your own. Oh, that one that it is? No. Well, first thing I really thought of right. No, I'll call it that some way. You got to come away to clean it. Oh, so exactly. You know, if you always hit the goal, you don't want to go on. All right. Yeah. Yeah, yes. Well, the more touches, the more experiences you have. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Sailor? Yeah. Good luck to you.
See you on next time.
That will probably start.
You work for Shamrock long?
What's that?
You work for Shamrock long?
Since so I worked back in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah. Short North.
Yeah, sure. And didn't say I'm not gonna
Ohio State.
Yeah. So great by last. And really ruined my outlook. I thought it was so much nice. I thought it's literally. What to get out of there? Get out of there. Where'd you get out of that?
Yeah, the mayonnaise was in there. Looks no. Lots of two ketchups.
Yeah.
What I get out of that? Huh? What? Oh, it's like someone.
That's why here for the yeah. That's why we look to them. Like I was like everybody like but like I'm just sort of working out. I think that's
What they do? That's all right.
Yeah. I'm actually attitude with that. I didn't get the obligation. I did. Well, the chance to try to live with it. But they like told people like yeah, and I'm like